Hey everyone, today we're going to continue our portfolio project. If you haven't checked out previous videos, go ahead and check out the previous videos up here so you can get caught up. But we're going to continue building out our portfolio project today. All right, welcome back. My name is Jeff Batt with Learning Dojo, and if you haven't checked out my website already, go ahead and check out my website at learningdojo.ninja. Here you can check out all previous blog posts. You can also check out templates and download templates for Articulate Storyline and XAPI and video and more templates coming soon. You can also check out full courses on Articulate Storyline 360, Adobe Captivate, XAPI Fundamentals, Articulate Rise Custom SCORM, and HTML5 video. So we're going to continue building our portfolio project inside of Webflow. When we last left off, we had our About Me section and we started to build out our card section. Now the card section is designed just to give a quick little overview of the project, and then you can link to the project, and this could be on a Google Drive or something like that, or SCORM Cloud, you can link to those. But for now, we just want to give a little information, but we want to make this reusable. If I go into the project that we were in last time, so I'm going to go into the dashboard here, and then I'm going to go into my Portfolio 3 project. This is the project that we were working with in the last video. You can see that we started to build out our card. Now I could actually come in here in this card, and if you click on this and go up to card, I could copy that and I could paste it. The bad thing about that is it's not really reusable, and I'd have to go in, and if I take a new image at a different size and other things like that, I may run into some issues. But Webflow has an easier way to do this, and they call them symbols. And so we're going to cover how to actually create a symbol and then use symbols for these cards. And then if we can, we'll go into creating a grid and how you can lay these out in different grids as well. So let's go ahead and go into Webflow, and we're going to take this card, select the highest parent that you can. And so in this case, I don't want to select the column, and I don't want to grab all the properties for the column, but I want the card and all the properties for the card. So I'm going to do that and then come into the symbol section over here, and I'm going to create a symbol. Now this symbol I'm also going to call card. Call it something that you're going to remember, or we could call it something like project card or something like that. Then I'm going to go ahead and click on create a symbol. And now you can see that we are inside of our symbol, and you can see this over on the left-hand side here, that we can go back to our instance. The cool thing about symbols is if you change one thing, it will change it across the board. I mean, across your entire website as well. And so it will just automatically update. And that's one of the nice things is I update it once and it will update it everywhere. And you can do some of that with like classes, but this is pretty much takes it to another level as well. We want some of the items inside of here to change based on the symbol that's used. So once we're inside of the symbol, we need to basically define what is going to change, and so it will make it easier when we grab a symbol from the library and we try to reuse it. We can swap out different content. I'm going to first of all come into here and select the image. Anywhere that you see this purple dot here, this means that you can set this as a definable or a changeable part of this instance, basically, the symbol. And so I'm going to click on that, and then I have to give it a new name. And so we're just going to call this one image or thumbnail or whatever you wanted to name it, something like that. So I'm going to create and link. And so now this, when I add a symbol, there will be a field that says image that will allow me to swap out the image. That's how easy it is. Well, we know that this is going to change, the heading 3. So you can see over here, and if you don't see this part, go into the gear icon. This is where I can change this to a new field. This text is going to change. So I'm going to click new field, and this is going to be our heading. And then I'm going to come over here and change the text. I know that this one will change, so I'm going to click on this dot. And we don't want to change it to heading here, but I'm going to create a new field, and this will be description. And there we go. And the last thing that we're going to do is the link for the button. The text isn't going to change, but the link to wherever it's going to be at, whether it be on Google Drive or something, is going to change. So over here, if the text would change, I could click on the text little dot here, and then I could have a spot to swap out the text and what the text says. So if you want that, great. I don't really want that, so I'm going to go ahead and click on link right here. And then I'm going to create a new field that says link to course. Now, if I click on create link, that's pretty much all that I have to do. Now, if I come back to my instance and I select this and go to the gear icon, notice that these are now the changeable fields. And so we have image, that will change my image. We have heading, and I can come in here and change my heading. And as soon as I start typing out here, notice that it starts to type it over in that symbol. We also have the text, and we also have the link to course. Now, this could be an external URL, a page, another page inside of Webflow. This could be a phone number, an email, or a different section. I'm going to go ahead and just have this be an external URL and have this open up in a new tab. So I want this to open up a Google Drive or something. That's how easy it is. But now watch this. This is the power of it. If I go into the symbols section and I grab this symbol and I just drag it into the other column, notice that the settings, the changeable settings here, and I don't need to see this to override symbols, but the changeable settings now pops up here. It pops over on the right-hand side too, but it pops over as soon as I drag in this card. So I have some images on my desktop here, and I'm going to just use those as my projects. So you probably want to grab a screenshot of each of your projects and then get those ready to upload here. But I'm going to take this one and click on replace image. I'm going to upload a new image of my project, and let's just grab this one right here and click on upload. Now it's going to take a second and then upload it and swap out that image here in a second, or if it doesn't swap it out, you can just come over here and select that image. And there we go. Now we're going to call this one project 2, and then I can change the text however I want. Now if I go into that symbol, watch, I'm going to close this out, and if I go into that symbol, notice how it changes back to the original image. And so that's what, when you go into a symbol, don't get thrown off there, because you're changing now everything about every one of those symbols out there. So keep that in mind. If I go back to the instance, that's where it will change it back to whatever has been changed about this symbol. And that's how easy it is now. Now I can just go in and grab different rows and columns and other things and start changing out my project files. But what about the layout? The layout, you can see here, is pretty good, but it's basically, I mean, you'd have to change it to just be rows and columns, and so you can have like 4 rows or other things like that. One of the nice things about layouts or grids is that we'll handle some of this layout stuff for you automatically. So I'm actually going to go in and I'm going to change this back to my desktop size here, and I'm going to get rid of both of these cards at the moment. And in fact, I want to go ahead and just get rid of these columns too. I'm going to add another container. Let me come back in here and add another container inside of this section. And we're going to go into our properties and change this to 1200 wide, because that's what we had done before. Or actually, I think we did it a little bit smaller. Maybe it was 1000. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and change this to 1000 max wide, basically. So now I'm going to go in and I'm going to add, instead of just the columns, I'm going to add a grid. If I come in and click on the plus icon and then just drag and drop grid here, it starts to add 4 grids. It will add 2 columns and it will add 2 rows as well. Now grids are very easy to just snap things in, and so you could even go in and you can add more columns, you can add more rows as well. So grids are very flexible that way, but also grids, when you start to get to responsiveness, have a lot of control. So I'm gonna delete what I just did there, or just hit undo up here. Right now I just want to have 2 rows and 2 columns, and then I'm going to go into my symbol and just drag in my symbol to that first grid area. Now I'm going to go in and grab another symbol and drag that into my other area as well. Now I'm going to swap out in the second one, I'm going to swap out the image. So going into my properties over here, I'm going to swap out that image, and then I'm going to swap this to be project 2. The nice thing about grids is I can start to just reorder and just add other things pretty easily. And the spacing of this is handled really nicely as well. So if I start to adjust the size, notice that it keeps the spacing of my cards pretty nice. And I can even come into the grid. If I select the grid here, and then click on this right here, this allows me to adjust the spacing. So I can come in and adjust how, if I want one to have more spacing than the other one, I can adjust that. Or over on the right-hand side here, this is where I can adjust the gap. So the gap between columns and the gap between rows. Do I want it to be even? Do I want it to be more on between the columns or more between the rows? I can do that. But as I start to go to the different sizes, one of the nice things as well is I can decide when this will actually adjust down to the rows. So I can come over here with this selected and going over to my properties here. If I now want this to be just one row, then I can come over here and just delete that right here under the columns. And so it gets rid of the other column, and it just basically has now one column after the other. So you can see here, it makes it really nice, and it keeps the spacing and gaps and other things like that pretty nice when it gets down to that size. So it's just a nicer way to be able to handle these different controls, and also to just basically drag and drop. Notice how I'm just dragging all these different things around here, drag and drop these into different columns and different rows and other things like that, which it's not as easy when you're working with the rows and the columns by default there. So wanted to point that out there when you start to create your projects and you start to create this little thumbnail area, these cards area, you may want to lay them out inside of a grid rather than doing it inside of just rows and columns. So hopefully that was helpful for you. We're going to be talking about other responsiveness and other things that we can add to our portfolio later. So if you want to find out more, make sure that you like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And also tell me what else you want to see inside of your portfolio. What other sections? Do you want to see pop-ups? Do you want to see modals and other things that will give you more information? Let me know, and then I can work on those videos in the future. But hopefully this at least gives you a start. And one more thing that I wanted to cover is if you wanted to publish this out, notice how if I click on publish to domain, this gives me a URL that I can send out to future employers. Or I can actually add a custom domain. So if I had jeffbat.com, I can add a custom domain and I can publish it out there as well. Or if you have the paid account, you can actually come into the export code section and you can prep the zip, and then you can download a zip, and then those zipped files now you can upload to any server. So really flexible here as far as what you can do with Webflow. And again, let me know what else you want to see. And if you haven't checked out my website with all of the other tutorials, go ahead and check out learningdojo.ninja. You can see all my previous blog posts, all my templates on Storyline and XAPI. You can see full courses on Articulate Storyline 360, Adobe Captivate, XAPI Fundamentals, Articulate Rise Custom Score, and HTML5 video. Hopefully this was useful for you, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks, everyone.